listening to the Danger Tapes podcast with your host, Devin Ramos.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Danger Tapes podcast. My name is Devin Ramos, and this is episode 204. Last week, I did not drop an episode. I did say I was going to drop an episode every week, and I do intend to keep that promise, aside from the fact that I broke it last week. But, I think that I just didn't have really a whole lot to say, and I also got kind of busy, so I just didn't do an episode. However, I do like the way these episodes are coming out, with these being the 200s of the podcast. We are also coming up on the 5th year of the podcast. I do want to get more guests on here. Keep saying that. I'm going to make it happen. But as far as what's been going on with the podcast and all the technical stuff, I just recently sold some of my mics. And actually, one of my mics, I intend to sell the other. For those that have been on the podcast, they know that I use the Shure SM7B, which is a very, very professional looking mic. But it's like, I think for what I'm doing with the podcast, I don't really need it. And I do want to tell people that if they are going to start a podcast, and if they eventually follow through with it, like I have, they do not need to spend so much money on a microphone. I think that I've probably spent I spent a good amount of money on this podcast. I think, with the monthly fees and, for the bandwidth and all that, and in buying equipment, I think I've spent quite a bit of money on it, and I think that I didn't need to spend maybe a third of that money. And I think when people start a podcast, they probably think, well, I need really good equipment, and it's really not the case. I've actually been doing guest podcasts with equipment that probably costs around $120, and you actually get a lot for that money. You get like a few mics, a mixer, and maybe it's about 200. Yeah, probably about 200 is closer. But with that, you do get the recorder, you do get the mixer, and and I want to kind of make a video about that, just as far as, because I know a lot of people always say they want to start a podcast, and like I said, they just always feel like they need the best equipment. But I think there are a lot of ways to get around not having it. It makes a big difference having something really good, but it's not something you really need. Anyways, I was also waiting to do a podcast because, again, I just was busy, and I really wasn't consuming anything outside of me doing, business or any other shit. I wasn't really watching any movies or TV or anything. Actually, over the weekend, I just finished the second season of Rick and Morty, which I'm really behind on everybody who's already finished that. I also just started watching Stranger Things, and let's see, I saw Suicide Squad, and I took my mom to see, what did I take her to see? Oh, The Secret Life of Pets. So I've actually gone to see a few things. I've actually gone to read a few different things. I actually just finished this other graphic novel called The Divine, which is a really dope comic book or graphic novel. And it really just reminded me of what I think a depiction of what a comic book would look like in a movie. I think in a movie it's always sort of exaggerated, and the action is always sort of heightened when somebody is actually reading a comic book. They talk about people's heads exploding, people having superpowers. And I think what The Divine does is, I actually posted a picture of it on my Instagram. It's a really dope book. I think what The Divine does is it actually takes that idea of what people think comic books are, and again, it just shows it in comic book form, without it being over the top, without there being these weird tertiary characters that just have bad humor and drive the story, or have nothing to do with the story even, but are just there as comic relief, which I really kind of hate at this point in comic books. I really hate comic relief that isn't like Deadpool or, Spider-Man making a quick joke when he's, fighting somebody. I'm getting tired of it. I'm getting tired of those shitty characters. I'm getting tired of the bad jokes. I just want to see action. I want to see action. I want to see drama. That's all I want to see in comic books. That's it. That's it. If the humor doesn't drive the story in any way, shape, or form, I don't want to deal with it. Okay? It doesn't have, a comic book does not have to be funny. It could actually just be serious. And I think what I'm referring to here is the first issue of probably something that most people aren't even reading, which is the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers comics. And I started reading the first comic. I just wanted to see if I could relive some of that nostalgia. And because I was a really big fan when I was a kid. I remember joining the fan club and getting a lunchbox and the tattoos and a videotape where the Black Ranger showed up as Hip Hop Kito. I was a big fan. So when I went to the comic store, they had 3 issues for like $12, and I figured, all right, like this will be kind of a good introduction to getting started. And it's basically the same story. Talk about the Green Ranger struggling to become actually one with the Power Rangers, and how he was actually kind of rogue and meant to be with Rita, and all that shit. They talk about that, and that's really cool stuff. They have like these simulators that the Green Ranger has to go in and try to save some people. Really cool stuff. But in the comic, for those that have ever watched the original Power Rangers, there's the comic fodder, which is not Alpha 5, I think that was his name, but they have Bulk and Skull, which, if you go back and watch the show, it makes the show feel really stupid, it makes it feel really dumb, which, whatever, but when you're actually trying to be nostalgic about it, you're like, wow, I used to watch this shit. And with the comics, you're kind of reading into them, and you're just like, man, they really don't need these fuckers in there. They don't need them. Like, they just could have made a really dope Power Ranger story. It's their comic. They have the story. And to me, I think what they should have kind of made it like is the Ninja Turtle comics, which, again, a lot of people aren't really reading those either. But they're just really fun, like really cool. Everybody who has something funny to say just says it. Michelangelo, or all the other Ninja Turtles, Donatello, Raphael. If they have these little quips, they say them. Drives the story forward. That's in their character. They don't have all these other shitty characters in there. And at some points, it gets really dark in there. And I think maybe they should have went that direction with these comics. I think that's going to really hurt it. But, I mean, it was still kind of fun to see the Megazord and the Kaiju that they fight in there. But, yeah, I think that other than that, other than me just dealing with shitty characters, I think that I've just been watching movies for like the past week. This way I could get a podcast out. And I did watch, like I said, The Secret Life of Pets, which when I saw the trailer for that, if you've ever seen the trailer for that movie, I actually thought, I'm like, well, this is pretty much as good as it's probably going to get with this movie. And I was, for the most part, right. I think that it had some funny parts. It had some really clever parts. I think Louis C.K. did a really good job being Louis C.K. as a dog. Hannibal Buress did a really good job being a weenie dog. But other than that, like, it was just, there were some parts that were just really, really drawn out. And I mean, it's a movie for kids. Like, I don't know. I feel like some kids would probably get bored at some point. I got kind of bored. I think my mom got a little bit bored watching it too. But I don't know. Like, I just feel like there was maybe a good 10 to 15 minutes that didn't need to be in the movie. The movie actually could have ended a lot sooner. But I think overall, like, the animation was really cool. And, maybe going on with that comic relief in movies and comics and everything. And I know this is kind of like me being edgy or whatever, like it's just me, it's just a thought really, is when is the time, that was not even English, what the fuck am I talking about, when is Kevin Hart gonna stop being in movies? And I'm sure he's gonna make a few good ones, but I just feel like every movie, if it's animated, if it's a comedy, he's like in every other movie. And at this point, I'm just like, did he really need to be in The Secret Life of Pets as a rabbit? Like, really. I just thought I got kind of bored with it. I just thought it was kind of dumb at some parts. I don't know. It's just weird seeing, when I first saw Kevin Hart, like, I think I first saw Kevin Hart in The 40-Year-Old Virgin, and he was actually funny back then. Like, and he's still kind of funny. Like, I actually really like the Nikes he just dropped, with the exception of the fact that he wrote his name all over them, and they're actually on the shoe. You could go and see the Nike Kevin Harts. But they just wrote a bunch of Kevin Hart quotes on there, and it's really weird. I don't think they really needed to do that. It's just too much Kevin Hart with anything. And when I first saw Kevin Hart in The 40-Year-Old Virgin, he was a really good character. Like, he was he wasn't even in there for 5 minutes. Like, he was in there for like maybe a total of a minute and a half, and he was really funny. Like, he played his part, and that was it. Even in, I think, the 5-year engagement, he was really good. There was one other one which he was pretty funny. I don't know, but he was pretty good in the 5-year engagement, and I think that's probably the peak of as far as what Kevin Hart could do. Oh, he was in This Is the End, which was kind of funny too, but he was only in there for maybe a total of 2 minutes as well. But I just think that he doesn't need to be in so many goddamn movies. Like, he's funny on his own. Like, I get that he works really hard. He's clearly a really hard worker. Like, it's not easy being in like 10 movies in the span of like 3.5 months. But I just feel like it's too much. Like, I worry for the guy. Me being broke. No, I'm not really broke, but me having like way less money than he has. Like, I worry for him because I feel like he's going to overstay his welcome, and I feel like a lot of people are really going to get tired of him, and I'm sure they already are tired of him. Like, you can only have so much of one person in entertainment, and I feel like he's sort of become this caricature of himself. Am I sounding douchey enough for any of this stuff? Yeah, so I mostly enjoyed The Secret Life of Pets. Suicide Squad, I was surprisingly relieved at how not good it was, but how bad that it wasn't. I thought it was okay. I thought maybe it did get a bad rap. There were some parts that were, kind of stupid, but I think that for DC really trying, I think they're almost hitting the mark. I think they might hit it with Justice League. I think they might actually do it. Suicide Squad, they came really close. And I think that maybe if they had just, I don't know, maybe not had so much corny one-liners. I think I'm just an anti-humor guy at this podcast. Yeah, that's really bad. I need to change the subject. But anyways, like, I kind of liked it. I liked Will Smith in it more than I thought I would. And El Diablo was cool too because I wasn't expecting that. It's pretty cool. Okay, so I think that's about it as far as me talking about shit that I just don't like. I really didn't have an agenda with this podcast. I feel bad 'cause I didn't even take notes. I've been putting it off. Yeah, I think that with this being episode 204, I think that I just kind of want to relax and chill and talk. Oh, actually, I do have some shit to talk about. So I'm supposed to go to a Dodger game tomorrow, Dodgers Giants, and I think it'll be really cool. I haven't been to a Dodger game since opening day, I think, or maybe like opening week, and so it'll be cool. It'll be me, Karina, Derek, my dad, and we're going to get some food from Claro's. And I was kind of thinking, because I got this wild hair up my ass, and I wanted to go back to LA on Friday, or the day after this Dodger game, and I kind of want to do a vlog. And I was actually talking to Karina about it, and I was talking to Derek about it, and Derek didn't say it would be stupid, so usually, because also Karina was also really for the idea, and Derek didn't say it was stupid, I think I'm actually going to do it. And I'm going to do it in the least annoying way possible. I just kind of want to film the shit that I'm doing, and just kind of talk about it in like a commentary form. I don't know if that'll even work, but I've been doing a lot of different videos with sneakers and unboxings and just toying with the format a little bit. I know I'm not reinventing the wheel here. There's probably thousands of people that do the same exact goddamn thing. But I think that I just want to have fun and just film shit like the way I see it and talk about it in different ways. And I really feel like that's sort of an extension of the podcast in that way, because like I come on here and I'm staring at a computer screen that's kind of clocking my time here, and that's all I really have. Like, I'm not really like experiencing something or really even talking about something unless I have notes or unless I saw a movie. But yeah, so for these vlogs I kind of want to do that, and I think that it's important, like again, kind of going back to when you create a podcast, I think it's important to go outside of the means of what you've already heard, with your most favorite podcasters, because they're already famous and they're already doing it and they already have an audience. So you really have to, when you start a podcast, like you really have to have something different, and you really have to not be afraid of doing something that's maybe a little unconventional, maybe a little different than what you're used to. That's something that I really learned doing this podcast in like the last 5 years, and I'll talk about that in maybe like the next episode or two, because by the time my birthday comes, which is like in another 2 weeks, it'll be the birthday of the podcast as well, because I started it like on September 7th, I think. So I'll have an episode for that, and I'll just kind of talk about what I've learned in like the last 5 years in doing podcasts and having guests on. I mean, not that I'm an expert in it. I just kind of figuring shit out, and I've talked to people about how I do the podcast, and I talk to people how it's kind of helped me craft what I make. And in saying that, I think that it's more like me doing something. When I set out to do this in 2011, I had an idea of what I wanted it to be, and for the most part I accomplished it over the span of like many episodes. But that idea changed, and it's so different from what it is now from what it was 4 years ago. And that's okay. Like, I've learned that's okay. I've become comfortable with the fact that you got to change shit constantly in a podcast when you're not famous in doing this, because I think the most popular podcasts, they encourage people to do stuff, and they encourage people that they have the power to do it, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they should all the time. And that's okay. Like, if you shouldn't be able to do something, that means you just have to work a little bit harder in being able to have that permission to do something. Does that make sense? I'll leave it at that. I will talk about more of what I think of that idea in the next episode or two. I do have an episode with me, Sally, Ryan, Karina, Michelle, and Mallory. Yeah, I think that I'm going to drop that. I'm not sure. I'm kind of just dreading editing it. But yeah, so stay tuned for that vlog. Right now, my videos are actually coming out a lot cleaner than the podcast. So go subscribe to my page, The Danger Tapes, on YouTube. There's a lot of sneaker reviews, and people seem to like them. So I'm just kind of getting better with the camera and getting more comfortable. All right, I think that's all I have for you guys. Okay, I'm really sorry that this podcast may have been a little drawn out, and it took me about 20 minutes to say what I could have said in maybe about 5.5. So if you made it this far, thank you guys for listening. I appreciate it from the bottom of my heart, as always. I will have more episodes. I'm sorry this one is super late, but yeah, this shit's hard. It's hard to do one every week. It really is, and it's easy to do one every week, but it's hard to do it with quality. So, it's just something I'm watching out for. All right, obviously this one really, in my opinion, it's not really a quality episode. Okay, sorry. I will catch you guys next week. Hit me up on YouTube, hit me up on Instagram, DevRamos_, and I will catch you guys on the next one. Peace.